What's going on, guys? Another edition of Tips Time with Josh Klyn, your weekly source for new producing tips to help you along the way. Today, I'm actually a little puzzled on what to call this one, but essentially, I kind of wanted to talk about being able to organically structure your track and find where to put your sounds in the frequency spectrum, figuring out what kind of groove you want. So, yeah, I'm gonna just give you an example here, and this is just something I've learned trial and error, kind of. And if it can help you, then great, and maybe speed up your process a bit. So I have here, just Ableton, and I'm gonna just put on my headphones so I can hear well, now I hear what I'm saying. Like I hear myself in the microphone, so that's kind of weird, but we're gonna roll with it. So I have just like a loop here, deep tech loop, and there's a kick in it, okay? So we're gonna play that. Nothing too fancy, but you have a steady groove, you have a kick, but you don't have any bass. You don't have like a low end like bass line or something to roll in between that kick. Now I'm not going to go over compression or sidechain compression today, but I did want to just go over a process that I do for trialing different basses, and this doesn't just go for basses. This goes for um, really anything if you know and you're planning on where you want to put it in your frequency spectrum, right? So, okay, we know this is going to be the bass, right? So we'll just call this chord bass. And what we'll do is we'll first just this is really what I mean. So what I'll do is I'll take my EQ, and obviously you'll do some corrective EQ later. Maybe you'll switch some things around with your EQ, but this is just meant to kind of be an initial process to allow you to, trial different sounds. Because if you know where you're going to put it in the frequency spectrum, you might as well put it in the EQ. So then if you're going through, say, presets and whatnot, you can make sure that it's going to fit in the mix well. So here, the bass, you don't want it to be too muddy, so I have it cut off around 30 hertz. And I'm going to have it right around here. Yeah. And we're going to play our loop here, right? And then we're going to just I'm going to draw in just some, I'm first actually going to load a synth. So I'm just going to throw in, we'll go for Serum. Serum's an easy one to trial with. Okay, so we just have a random preset, and I'm just going to draw in. It might be hard to hear this, so maybe I can use another example after. Go a little higher in the octaves. Right, so then that took a while, but just kind of getting more of a rolling bass and having that EQ already set kind of gives you an idea, and it allowed me to kind of be able to see more of a realistic picture of where that bass is going to sit and if it's going to sound good or not. Because because you can have it where if you don't have it EQ'd right and you just have it an open EQ, you can hear it, but you're hearing the full spectrum. You're not really hearing representative of where you actually are going to be intending to put it. And at this point, if I have a MIDI note pattern or bass pattern, this is a pretty fast bass pattern. I'm actually not, I don't normally make them this long. Usually they're a bit, they're a bit longer, like a more, like not as many notes. Usually they're just longer notes for me, but I don't know, it just fit well with this preset. So I'm just gonna keep it in this, keep it in the EQ, and trial different presets and tweak those presets as I go. Now the same thing can be done when you're doing that with, say, another synth. So if I have, you know, my bass is set, I have my percussion a little bit, I have, you know, whatever. Let's say I want to put in maybe a stab or something in the mid frequency. Well, I'm gonna pull up another audio, or another MIDI, sorry, and we'll make this one actually 4. And now I'll just keep it serum just for sake of consistency. And I'll go with, and I'll just start trying things, but I'll know if I'm doing this, okay, if this synth, I don't want this to be interfering with the bass or the kick, so I'm gonna make this just right off the bat, you know, close to 300 cutoff. And I also don't want it messing with the percussion, so let's just cut that into right around there. So that's where I'm hoping it's gonna sit well. So then I will start, you know, let's just put in something basic here. Plug your ears for that terrible preset. Okay, we'll just trial these. Right, and just with that, you already kind of get a good vibe, and you have a good sense that it's going to fit well in your mix. See, if you had it just like this, you could be misled into, say, putting that in your track, saying this sounds great, but it's not actually going to fit well in the mix, unless you want to make that pretty much, you know, the main component of your track, or, you know, like center stage of it, which is fine. You know, this isn't really meant to, I guess, pigeonhole you when you're first starting to make a track, but it's kind of meant to at least give a sense of the plan, frequency wise, when you're starting with, you know, implementing maybe like a different sound into your track. Because if you're starting off really early in your track development, you may just be trialing sounds with no EQing or anything, and it might sound really good, but and you may gather a bunch of sounds, but then by the end, when you're actually trying to put it all together or mix it well, it can be really challenging because you may have a lot of sounds that you liked initially when they were full spectrum, but then when you have to really compartmentalize them into different spectrum of into different frequency, like frequency spans, I guess, for lack of a better term, you may not like how they sound then. So this is kind of meant to give you an idea what it's going to be sounding like when you've mixed it and everything. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope I explained it well. But yeah, leave a comment or subscribe, and I will talk to you all next week.